Yeah.
All right, this might be who we have.
That's
Okay.
A-okay.
All right.
We'll present to one. Anybody who will listen to us.
Okay, excellent.
That's
All right, thank you everyone for being here, and I'm sure you're in great hands. Thanks.
Thank you.
How long do you think the presentation is?
Well, we always fill an hour and
Okay.
often go over. We'll try
That's
our
fine.
best to keep it.
Absolutely fine. Yeah,
So,
and I'll swing back around 2, but if you're still going, my side showing up does not mean you have to be done.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, so if anybody needs to leave right at 2, you can go. But usually we're close to wrapping up and then we'll have questions. It's time for some questions if anybody wants to talk about anything, so. Thanks for coming. All right, hello, we'll introduce ourselves here shortly. Today you came to a presentation on fraud and cybersecurity, and hopefully that we can help to educate you guys a little bit about what to look for and what to be wary about, and not get embroiled into something yourself. And if you know friends or family that have been approached by somebody, you can help them not get stuck into a bad situation. Our purpose today is not to explain to you how to do it, how to defraud someone else. And instead, we want to, like we said, teach you and help you be aware so that you can mitigate any sort of exploitation or scam or victimization that somebody might be willing to heap upon you. We're going to talk about what is fraud or what it can be. We're going to talk about trends across the country and Wisconsin in particular. We're going to talk about some specific scams and frauds and lessons to learn from them. Michelle and I have been doing this job for a long time, and we've heard many, many, many stories. Things happening right here in Dane County. If you've heard stuff across the nation, it's the same thing right here. So there's definitely these things that we want to be concerned about. We'll give you a few tips and maybe some words of wisdom. So I'm Detective Michelle Viney. I've been with the Dane County Sheriff's Office 20 years and a detective for a little over 3 years. And I'm on my way out. I'm retiring soon. It's on the horizon. Mm-hmm. So, but very passionate about this topic and wanting to get the word out to see if we can, like Gwen was saying, stop this from happening from more people. So. Mm-hmm. I am Gwen Ruppert. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 31 years. I've been a detective for like 15 years. Michelle and I both do white collar crime stuff as our fallback. We're general assignment detectives in general. And then we run out and go help out with a crash or a bad case of some sort, and when we don't have anything else kind of hot going on, then we fall back to our fraud assignment all the time. And there's always plenty to do because we are being inundated with cases these days. And as we told the group, we had a group yesterday too over in Verona, we could both be sitting here with you. So we are of this age also. We could be sitting here being presented too. So I've been getting my art magazine for actually probably 8 or 9 years now. At first I threw it away. I'm like, I'm not old enough for this, but I am. And I actually learned really good stuff out of it. And I listened to the ARP Fraud Watch podcast, and there's some very interesting stuff on that too. So it's probably helped me in the job that I'm doing for, teaching me and making me familiar with what some of the scams are out there. So we work obviously for the Dane County Sheriff's Office. I'm sure you all have heard of us. As the Sheriff's Office, we have the scope across the entire county. So we have the authority to go and do work anywhere. And as you know, maybe most of you are from Stoughton. The city of Stoughton has their own police department. We can come and help them if they ask for our assistance. We have, generally as a bigger agency, we have more resources and we have more kind of specialties that we kind of take care of. We have an IT specialist within our agency who works with us on crime stuff. He doesn't just help us make sure that we have a connection to the internet. He actually knows how to help us get a case, investigated and over to prosecution with the DA's office. So we have resources like that. We worked hand in hand with many agencies across the county, including all of our other law enforcement partners. We can come in and help them if they request it, because again, we have more resources. We have more people, obviously. We have about 430 to 450 deputies these days, which actually includes all us detectives and all the supervisors and everybody. We also work especially with our Dane County District Attorney's Office. That's actually who gives me my marching orders for the most part. I have to do a case up to their specifications. right? If it's not good enough for them, they're not going to prosecute it. It's great that my boss tells me to, be to work at 2 o'clock today and get done at 10, but I really need to make the DA's office happy, right? Or my cases aren't going to go anywhere. So we work very closely with them, and they give us our marching orders. And of course, we work with other agencies and not just for financial crimes. We also work with the Department of Ag, Trade, and Protection, Consumer Protection. Everybody heard of DATCAP? Mm-hmm. I listen to their, sometimes when they're on with Larry Mueller on, at 11 o'clock or whatever, like once a month they'll come on and they'll talk about what are the trends of scams and stuff like that. So they're actually really helpful to us. Sometimes we end up referring cases to them because they actually have a statewide authority. So we've had recently construction fraud. There was a company that was making contracts to replace your windows and then didn't follow through on it, or the workmanship was really shoddy. Well, that guy ended up doing that in multiple counties across the state, and rather than us work just here in Dane County, we figured out that DATCAP was already working a case in multiple counties, and they can just conglomerate the whole thing and take it to a DA's office, and so they just handled the whole case just that way. So they have the authority over some things. They can't do everything that we do. They obviously don't investigate like sexual assaults or crashes, that kind of thing, but when we're talking about some of the white collar crimes, they can help us with that. We also work with Adult Protective Services. Sometimes they refer cases to us or we refer cases to them. And we work with Department of Financial Institutions. We like to mention a few of these in particular. For those who don't know, that's an organization for the state that if you incorporate a business, that's who you have to register it with. But they're, as far as we're concerned, why they're important is they are the agency that would investigate investment fraud. So if you have been approached about, hey, invest in this thing, and that turns out to be a fraud, that ends up going to them. We're not really into trading or that kind of stuff. So we also work with federal partners and other local municipalities. We talked about that a little bit. Being in Dane County, the center of the world of Wisconsin, there's a lot of federal partners in our space, and we can coordinate with them when we need to. We talk a lot about the cases that we do, especially Michelle does a lot of crypto, but different cases that we do, we've seen that the money goes offshore. And we obviously don't have the authority or the budget that, my bosses are sending me to Mali or Myanmar or the Barbados or whatever, wherever we thought the money went to. But sometimes our federal partners do have the ability to go and try to find our bad guy and get some of our money back. So we hope sometimes that that's able to be the answer. When the dollar amounts get high enough, we can sometimes interest the FBI in our case, Secret Service, ATF, DEA, they're all here. They all here have an office in Madison, if you didn't know that, along with probably other ones that I don't even know about too. ICE has an office here in Madison. So, and why do we want to be here today? Because Michelle and I certainly could be sitting in our offices pushing papers all day, investigating more cases, or talking to people that have been scammed. But over time, we're seeing an increasing number of cases of fraud and scams. That includes an increase in the amounts of dollars lost. And it's so prevalent, and again, not only are we seeing this across the nation, but it's happening here in Dane County also. The problem is, if the situation gets to our attention, as I've kind of alluded to, most often we are not going to get people's money back when we figure out that it's gone overseas. Okay? In the United States, sometimes we can. Again, Michelle's going to tell you about a case where the money went from here to some other guy and then it went overseas. So we thought we had a suspect in the United States, and it turns out he was also a victim. He didn't realize he was what we call a resender. Money was sent to him to do something with that seemed legitimate, and then he ended up putting it someplace or sending it on to the next person, and that next person was actually the scammer. So we want to help people be as safe as possible on the front end because we're not having a whole lot of success getting money back for people. And if you've invested, if you've been encouraged in some sort of urgent manner to put your money into cryptocurrency, there's almost no way we're going to get your money back. So, although Michelle was just successful to get a little bit of money back last week or a couple weeks ago. And here's another bad statistic. If you've been scammed, you are 7 times more likely to be scammed again. Anybody got any idea why that is?
They probably got your information.
Yes, and your information gets sold on the dark web. If you've heard about that, you get on a list of people who are likely to answer their phone or who've actually, you know, hey, I scammed these people before, maybe they'll fall for it again, or some other similar scam. And you're more likely to be contacted again. So we're telling people, don't answer your phone. I mean, it feels bad to be in that position, and I don't want to, you know, encourage people to be isolationist or, you know, don't trust anybody, but don't answer your phone. If it's really somebody that wants to talk to you, they will leave a message or they'll follow it up with a text, hey, call me back right away, blah, 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 right? Okay? And also, you can't trust the phone numbers that are appearing on your phone sometimes. Probably if it's your child or, you know, somebody that you've been communicating with for a long time, yes. But if it's suddenly you got a phone call from the Dane County Sheriff's Office, it might not be us. Phone numbers are easy to spoof, which means there's a company that I can dial it up and be like, hey, I want this to look like this phone number, even though I want you to block my number. Yes, ma'am.
One time it came up public service. Now it said public service. I was like, I'm not picking up.
Well,
I didn't know what that means.
And the thing is, you can make your phone number kind of like a caller ID. You can make it appear as anything. I could appear and have Gwen's name on it. I could appear. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you can get it. You can set it up so that it says anything.
Yeah.
So that's why she's saying you can't necessarily trust. Yeah.
Sorry.
Our nicknames are Detectives Doom and Gloom. This is a lot of heavy, dark stuff. But the whole point is that we're trying to share this heavy, dark stuff so that you're not a victim, so you don't become a victim.
That isn't as good as Cagney and Lacey, that is true.
What?
Doom
Oh.
and Gloom is not as good a title as
Cagney and Lacey.
You know, I mean, I feel bad.
Well, true. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So we
I liked that show.
yeah, I did too.
Me too. We try to interject a little bit of humor in our presentation again to bring a little levity to it. So.
We get pretty good reaction from people. They seem happy to see women detectives.
I bet so.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody here, is anybody here a relative of somebody who works for the sheriff's office?
No?
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 Okay. Okay. All right. All right. What is the problem? So we're going to go through some stats real quickly. In 2024, this stuff comes from either the FBI or the Federal Trade Commission, which has authority over this type of fraud. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that means. Nationwide losses in 2004 topped $12.5 billion. That is money that is no longer in the U.S. economy doing good for us, right? It's not circulating, it's not being put back in, it's not creating the next business, it's not whatever. 1.1 million reports of ID theft occurred. Those are coming from a number of different agencies and the Better Business Bureau and nonprofits. That's a 9% increase over 2023. That is huge. It is just starting to be off the scale. Consumers report losing money to investment scams in 2024 more than any other category of fraud. It was $5.7 billion in 2024, which is up $1 billion from the year before. That's also a huge jump that I find it's hard to think that we can sustain this. And here's a new thing that just showed up this year. Younger people reported losing money to fraud more often than older adults. So 44% in that youngest category of 20 to 29 versus 24% of persons aged 70 to 79. So keep that in perspective though. It's just saying that they were defrauded more often. It was more money coming from older adults. Why is that? Anybody know?
They figure the older people have more money.
Because you do have more money, right? You're sitting on a retirement, you're sitting on Social Security that comes to your account every month potentially, you know, all those kind of investments. You have the ability to take loans. We've had that happen where, you know, you used up all your money and the scammers talked someone into taking loans out. So yeah, very bad, digs you in really deep. All right, again, according to the FBI, Americans of all ages reported $16.6 billion stolen through scams and fraud in 2024, up 33% over 2023, averaging $19,000 per loss. So that's all scams and fraud. In 2024, older adults lost more than $4.9 billion to scammers, again, up $1.5 billion in 2023. And Michelle?
Well, to put this in perspective, they made a really big deal out of Taylor Swift being the first artist act to bring in $1 billion for her Eras tour. She worked really hard for that. Went all over the world for $1 billion, and the scammers are making 5 times that, and that's just what we know is reported. So they're making a boatload of money, it's lucrative, it's not gonna stop unless we do more education and we don't have the victims for them.
Some of the reasons that we know that fraud is underreported is because it evokes feelings of shame and embarrassment, right? You feel like, ooh, what a dummy I am. And I'm smarter than this. Nobody should be able to get this, so I should have seen this, right? Nobody should have been able to get this over on me. And worry about the potential loss of autonomy, right? So our kids or our grandkids or whatever then are like, geez, I don't know that you can manage your money. I think you need to make me your, financial POA. And no, I'm not there. No thank you. So we worry about those kinds of things, and we understand that these are some of the concerns and why things are underreported. So how about Wisconsin, bringing it home? The FTC report in 2024 showed that Wisconsin's lost $106 million to scams. This is actually kind of good though. Stand by. In 2024, persons over age 60 reported losses of $50 million, so that's half. But again, it's because the scammers know who's got the money, right? People who worked all their lives and have, again, sitting on retirement accounts or Social Security, that kind of stuff. The good news, though, is that actually ranked Wisconsin 35th in losses across the nation with 8,000 plus reports. And I think that means that we're smarter than many people in some other states, right? So, all right, big losses. So let's say, how are they actually causing the scams, right? So big losses follow scams that start with a phone call or on social media. So just be aware of that. Phone calls were the highest per person loss, $1,500 in average. So the scam started with a phone call made to you, okay? And someone talks to you and you need to go do this right now. There's something wrong happening, and go take $1,500 out of your bank account and get it to me in some manner. Go buy gift cards, go buy crypto, go put that in a box and mail it to me. We hear about this stuff all the time. Social media is a good way that the scammers will reach you. Social media is not just texting. That's like Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever we call that now, that kind of stuff. That's actually the highest overall reported loss at $1.9 billion total. And email is another way that they try to get a hold of you. The highest overall number of reports at 372,000. So again, keep in mind that we believe this stuff is very underreported. Y'all have received the emails, right? I'm the Prince of Nigeria, and we believe that we have a lot of money for you, but you'll have to send me $4,000 to start with to get an attorney to help this get turned over to you, and then the fees just keep coming and coming, and you never do get that big amount of money, right? We don't see those very often anymore. Probably because the grammar was really bad and everybody just deleted it right away. The bad news that we're going to talk about a little bit here shortly is that that's not going to be so obvious anymore because of AI. So, as we age, keep this in mind though, we revert back to what's comfortable, and that's going to be the phone. So, it's hard to not answer the phone when you see it, or if you think it's a phone number that you should, recognize that you should know who this is. Again, that's the way that they're going to try to reach you. Now everything's on our phone these days, right? Your social media's on it, your texting's on it, your phone calls are on it. So it's kind of a security thing to have that phone and know that you can interact with it. Just be wary, because that's also the way the scammers are going to get to you. Again, if you don't recognize the number, just don't answer it. And here's our newest worry. Michelle, you want to talk about this one?
Sure. Generative AI. So what is it? It's artificial intelligence technology. Basically, they're supercharging the same techniques that the scammers already have been using, but making them their job easier, better, quicker. So one of the ways is voice cloning using an audio clip. So we've done our presentation many times via Zoom and it's put on YouTube. They could take audio clips of Gwen and I, our voices, and then the next part, the deep fakes, creating photos and videos. They could use the audio clip, they could use the video of us, and make it look like we're standing here giving a presentation saying, answer the phone every single time, twisting our words, and it's very realistic, extremely realistic. So the deep fakes are doing that, and a lot of times they're going to be possibly a family member, but celebrities. We're finding they're doing celebrities and organizations saying, help with disaster relief, whatever, things that you will tug at your heartstrings and maybe make you act. Phishing, if you're not familiar with that term, the PH, phishing, It's when, like Gwen was talking about, that email that used to circulate where it was the Prince of Nigeria and your royalty. So it could be via emails and fake websites, fake shopping sites, things like that. Again, AI though is cleaning it up. They're making it look even more realistic, harder to spot those fakes. And then spear phishing is when they're going to take your social media profile, watch what you're doing, your shopping, all those cookies, all the things that they're watching. They're going to be able to build this profile and know what you like. So then when they come after you, they're going to talk. If you love horses, they're going to talk about horses. If you said something about growing up in Illinois because you're part of the, grew up in McHenry, Illinois, whatever, they're going to take all those things and then make it personalized to you so that you're like, wow, this is like speaking to me.
Yep. We have a lot in common. Let's be friends.
Yeah.
So that's the basis for what we call affinity scams, which can lead to romance scams, but sometimes the affinity scam is just, hey, we love the Bears or whatever. So if they're specifically ending up to target you, and there's a way to do this now because of all the stuff that we've done online. That information came from the UW-Madison study. We were very proud to have information from them. And this comes from there too. And this went from 0 to 60 in 2 years. So back in 2023, there wasn't any reports of this sort of stuff. And now fraud reports started coming from, in the last year or 2 years ago. And then from May 2024 to April 2025, this year reports went up 460%. I mean, granted, that's not a lot if you went from 1 to 40. Or 400, but yeah, I think it's way more than that. And predicted by the end of 2025, $10 billion will be lost to us in AI-enabled fraud. And in the US alone, by 2027, they're talking $40 billion by AI-assisted fraud.
It's coming. So again, we're trying to scare you a little bit so that you are very diligent when you're getting your emails, your phone calls, letters in the mail, whatever it is, when someone's trying to come after you for your money. That's what they're after, your money.
And the good news then, generative AI is also being used to detect fraud. So we've been talking within our agency, we don't know what to do yet, but we've been talking saying, hey, who do we need to talk to figure this out? What are we gonna do? So if you call me and make a report, you call my agency, probably first you're gonna get a deputy and then you get us, and say, hey, someone from the sheriff's, I thought it was Michelle's voice. She called me and said, hey, you have a warrant, you better get in here and get this taken care of, or send me, $1,500 in gift cards, blah, blah, blah. Go buy vanilla gift cards or whatever at Walmart, okay? But you're like, that was Michelle's voice. I recognized it because she stood in front of me and talked for an hour, whatever. Or maybe you know Michelle better, or some other deputy or someone else you might trust. It's not her. So that report gets to us, we have to figure out, how do we figure out that it's not her? And we do know that there's some stuff on the horizon, we don't know what that is yet, or if ultimately it's gonna be like programs or equipment that's kind of beyond our scope, as in it's just too expensive. And if we're gonna have to refer this to other agencies, like either the feds or someone else that would have a specialty in this kind of stuff. So we're talking about it. We clearly need to jump on something to be able to figure it out. We haven't really had too many of that specific type of, thing go on. Most people are just, they're just saying, hey, this is Lieutenant Hayes from the Dane County Sheriff's Office, blah, blah, blah. It's not a voice fake. It's not a video or photo fake yet. So.
Crypto, which is cryptocurrency. Anybody diving into that, delving into cryptocurrency investments? So it's a digital asset. To me, it's money in the clouds. It's this. I definitely don't invest in it, and all of my connection to it is via fraud cases. So I don't trust it. There are people who legitimately invest in it. It's a real thing, but it's really easy for the scammers to use to get your money. I'll go into some case scenarios in a little bit to kind of explain how it's used and how you might be lured into that, but it's big. So in the US in 2024, 16.6 billion in cryptocurrency scams. Of the 16, yeah, 9.9 billion included crypto. So it's a huge huge chunk of it. And that Wisconsin cap said 12,000 of the older adults fell victim to crypto when it was used in the scam. And it's complicated. It's a super complicated process, but the scammers have it down to a science and they have it easy for you. They're going to talk you right through it. I just yesterday got a new case with cryptocurrency, and the gentleman that was victimized, they sent a QR code. He had it on his phone. I asked him to send it to me. He's like, I don't know how. So he's able to make a deposit into this system and put his money into cryptocurrency, but doesn't know how to send it. That's how good they are. They're going to be able to talk the most non-techie person into doing this. So if you think, oh, there's no way I could do it because I don't know anything about it, oh, they'll help you.
Well, and not only that, like they're sitting in another country. This is freaky to me. They know where you're sitting because they have that information already. And they'll say, get in your car, I'm gonna take you to the Quick Trip that has a crypto ATM. And they'll be like, turn right, and they can see what you're doing, because they can, you know what I mean? They've connected with your phone, so they're watching you. So they're like, yep, turn right on Main Street. Oh, when you get to that circle, take the second exit. When you get to the next circle, take the second exit. That's creepy to me, that somebody could be connected with me like that and watch what I'm doing and then completely talk you through it. I mean, Michelle's had one where the lady sat there for 2 hours and was plugging in $100 bills. The person stayed on the phone with her the whole time, like explaining how to do it. Okay, when you see this, next you punch enter. And then when you see this thing, next press 1, 2, 3. You know what I mean? They're completely talking them through it. And we've dealt with a few people who, might have sundowners, or, they're at a point where, whatever, they're still living alone, but their memory's not doing the greatest. They can't explain to us how this happened. And so we just have to kind of put it together from what we can find on their phone, or Michelle went out and kind of tried to walk through it with this guy yesterday. But I mean, that's just mind-boggling that they can accomplish this with somebody who probably is on the edge of not being able to take care of themselves very well. So, yeah.
But I would say the majority of the people are intelligent, educated, you and I, that get roped into this, and I'll go into it, how they're able to get into it. So imposter scams. This is when somebody's posing as somebody that they're not, whether it's a government, I'm a detective with the Dane County Sheriff's Office, or I'm your banker at your local bank, someone that you know and trust. So this is the highest number of reports, 2.9 billion in loss, according to the Federal Trade Commission. And romance scams, or the affinity scams, is a huge part of this. 389 million was taken through the romance scams. So scammers are going to use authority. A lot of people our age, we were taught, if someone with authority in a figure of authority tells you to do something, you're going to do it. You get pulled over and a cop tells you to do something, you guys are probably going to be respectful and do. That's just who we are. Plus we're Midwestern people. We're just kind, thoughtful.
Rule followers.
Yeah, we are. We're rule followers. So they're gonna bank on you listening to them because they're telling you who they are. They're not, but they're gonna use threatening, scary consequences. A lot of the scams are gonna tell you that, and I think we're gonna be bringing it up, but there's one of the most common ones. You're playing on your computer and you're playing solitaire. At some point you've probably clicked on something without realizing it, or you thought it was a cute ad, whatever. Clicked on it. When you click on something, you're opening the door for them to put some sort of malware or virus in there. Don't click on stuff that you didn't intentionally go looking for. If it's just some random ad, I would not click on it. Anyway, so that then the next time you log in, you're gonna get this alert on your computer. It's going to freeze your computer. Your screen is going to start alarming and flashing, and it's going to say call Microsoft. And here's the number. How thoughtful of them to give that number too, as it's alarming and freaking you out. You call. Of course, it's not really Microsoft. It's a scammer. But they're going to convince you that they can see that your computer has been used for, the most common are, your IP address is being used for Russian betting, child pornography, and the newest one is now buying weapons, illegal weapons. So none of you want to be involved in this, and they're going to tell you this is coming back to your computer at your home, so you're implicated. Let me help you out. Let me have access to your computer, so they have you They're gonna walk you through putting in an application on your computer that gives them access so that they can basically get in your computer and see everything that's in there. I don't know about you guys, and by computer, I mean, it could be your phone too. If you guys do online banking, they now have access to all of that. Anything you have in there, your family photos, whatever it is, all your passwords, they now have access to all of that. So they're going to convince you, because now they can see that you bank at Summit Credit Union. And they're gonna say, do you happen to have a Summit Credit Union account? Because it looks like somebody's taking money out of an account right now in your name. And they're like, it is. And they're gonna convince you that you better get down to the bank and withdraw all your money because it looks like an inside job. I can see this money coming out and it's gotta be from somebody inside. Let me help you. They're gonna put the pressure on, but they're also going to be the one that's trying to make you feel comforted that you're being taken care of. They're gonna help you through this. They're gonna isolate you and say, don't call anyone, don't mention it to your bank, because anybody you talk to, they're gonna be implicated in this now too. Don't get your family in trouble. We're gonna get you through this. Don't drag everybody else down with you. Just imagine your favorite actor in a movie. They've played different roles. This is their role. They've taken on this persona. They are John Smith from Summit Credit Union now helping you through this, and whatever they're telling you their role is, they're gonna be very good at it. They're gonna be very convincing. So if any of you have ever thought, there's no way I could fall for this, the Department of Financial Institutions in Wisconsin holds an annual roundtable where they invite guest speakers. They have people who are investigating financial crimes, but they also have people who have been victimized. And last year they had a medical examiner from a different county in the state. So we've got a doctor who fell victim to a scam. They had a real estate broker, investment broker that fell victim, and then it was a guy who owned a business and a few other people. But these are intelligent people that get roped into this and believing that their accounts have been taken over. I'll quick talk about a couple of I had a romance scam. A woman met somebody online. She was a widow and she was ready to date, so she joined a reputable dating site. And unfortunately, there's people trolling on there, scammers trolling on there, looking for somebody, and what a perfect way to do it, because now they know that I've got somebody who's looking for love. And so they created this relationship with her, convinced her that, it was over time, that they had this relationship and he can't wait to come meet her, but unfortunately, he's stuck on an oil rig. And his bank account was frozen before he left because somebody had hacked in, and so he doesn't have access to his funds. Convinced her to use her own money to contract for a helicopter to come lift him off the oil rig. She ended up losing everything, hundreds of thousands of dollars to this man that she thought she loved. So she lost her money, they stole her money, and they stole her heart. So it's a double whammy. And sometimes we get people who are suicidal after this. They're at their lowest point. So that was my oil rig scam, the lottery scam. This is, Gwen kind of alluded to this before. A man was contacted saying he had won Publishers Clearinghouse. They gave realistic paperwork, sent it to him, had his name, had his information on it, looked very legitimate. They said, don't let anybody know this. We like to do the big surprise, the big reveal, so let's get this all hammered out before you start sharing information with the family. And he's like, oh, this is gonna be great. My wife's gonna be able to retire. So excited. They said, there's taxes and fees involved, but we're gonna reimburse you for those. So we're gonna put money into your account, but then it has to come from you, so then you're gonna wire the money. So he let them have access to his bank accounts. They did wire $42,000, put it in his account. So he saw it come in, so then he went to his bank and made some wires and sent the money to the lottery agent in South Carolina. What he didn't know was that the scammers had used my victim's information to open up a whole bunch of credit cards, get cash advances on those credit cards that were in his name, took the cash advances, dumped it up to they got as much as they could, $42,000 worth of cash advances, put it in his account. So he sees this money and his bank says, yeah, that's really money in there. and then sends the wire to this man in South Carolina. The man in South Carolina, so like Gwen was saying, I thought, okay, I've found somebody involved in my scam. The man in South Carolina was an older guy that answered a work from home ad on Facebook. And all he had to do was he was gonna get wired money to him for a startup business where people were investing, but the head of this company was overseas, so they needed somebody in the United States to just collect the money for them. So he opened this bank account, had all these checks coming in from people who'd been scammed all over the United States for sending him money, putting it into this account, and when we traced that money, it all got taken out in ATMs in Jamaica. But now this guy in South Carolina is on the hook. He was a resender or a money launderer without realizing he was doing anything wrong. He was supposed to get a cut of this. Meanwhile, not only did they take the money out in Jamaica, but they went over, and so now he's on the hook for all the money gone. He's got cops from all over calling him, going, why did you get money from my victim? He's like, it wasn't me. So a horrible mess, and it's out of our jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm. Back up the screen, Michelle. We missed one little point that's actually pretty important for the stuff that we're talking about. Having to do with your phone. Go on. It's at the bottom of the next one. No, I mean, now come forward again. It was at the bottom of our first scene thing. So, and again, imposters are anybody who's claiming to be somebody that they're not, or it's a situation that's not what they're saying. Like, she's saying this guy's on the oil rig. Well, he didn't say he was from the Social Security Administration. Okay, that's not it. No. It had something to do with the phone. Having to do with, a lot of times when we were talking about these scams where we tell somebody that they have to go do the crypto stuff, yes, that's where it was. They'll have you stay on the phone with them, or and it used to be that we would see somebody with an earpiece in their ear, and so that the scammer could listen in what's going on. Like if you go in and talk to your bank person, and your bank person is like, this sounds suspicious, are you sure you should be taking this money? And you're like, oh yeah, because the scammer told you the reasons that you should tell them that you want this money, like, I'm going to buy a lake house, my son's getting married and I need $25,000, or other legitimate reasons, things that sound right to the bank, but okay. They want to be able to listen in. Now they're just saying, why don't you just leave the phone on and in your pocket? So they want to be able to listen in to hear if the bank person is trying to talk you out of this. Okay? So even if you do hang up on them, they're going to call back and say, that's not right, they don't know what they're talking about, just tell them this, they have to give you your money, just be persistent. They want to be able to listen in so that they're able to keep that urgency and to kind of understand what's going on with the process and where it's failing and to keep you going. Okay, so if you ever hear something like that, hey, I need to go to the bank and I'll just stay on the phone with you, that alone should make you like, this isn't good. We've trained bank tellers to watch for that and said, just be very cautious. If you think somebody's on the phone, or like you get this impression like, oh, it's right, or I set my purse right up here and I made sure that my phone could hear the conversation, watch for that sort of thing, because that could be a scam that's going on. So that's a huge tactic that the scammers will use, is telling you to stay on the phone with them. And one of the biggest, number one thing we're going to tell you at the very end of this is pause and reflect. Okay, don't take quick action. Hang up on them. Think about this. Maybe call a friend, call a family member, and be like, hey, somebody called me. The Lieutenant Hayes from the sheriff's office called and said, I have a warrant. I've never been in trouble in my life. Should I go get $500 gift cards for them? And your trusted person is going to be like, no, that's a scam, don't do it. So hang up, pause, and reflect. That's our biggest takeaway from this. I had a situation where somebody called, again, posing as somebody in authority. Hey, I'm from the FDIC and the Social Security Administration. How many people do you know that work for a federal agency also work for another federal agency because they have a part-time job, right? I think those agencies probably pay pretty well, and you don't need to work part-time for anybody. But and also, how difficult is it for you to get a phone call from the Social Security Administration? Really hard. It's hard to get in touch with them no matter what you do, right? And even just going there and standing in line. So does anybody know what the FDIC is? Anybody worked in a bank? It is the federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So it's insurance on a bank account that you would have up to $250,000 per account. So, but honestly, they're never going to call you. What they're concerned with is what is the bank's practices. They're concerned with what is the bank doing, or what are the officers of the bank doing in lending out money. Are their practices sound? That sort of thing. So if they're going to investigate anybody, they're looking at the bank. They're not looking at you. And in the end, they're just going to insure your money, right? So don't ever expect to get a phone call from the FDIC. So this lady got a phone call from somebody from both of these things saying the same kind of scam. I can see that it looks like your computer was involved in some child porn. This information is going to get out, and you're going to have your reputation is going to be ruined. You might have to go to jail over this, all this kind of stuff. And convinced her that she was, she's going to be in a lot of trouble. She needed to buy gold in order to have it picked up from her house to, get through this. So, but ultimately what they're saying is, we're going to help you get through this. You're helping us sort of investigate this, so we need to keep you kind of in the middle of this, and all your accounts just need to stay the same, except why don't you take your money out and give it to us. We're going to keep it for you for safekeeping so that you don't lose any of it, and you're going to get it back with interest when we're done. So she was supposed to go buy gold. She did. We actually had a lady in the north side of the county. She lost, I think, $700,000 or $800,000. And there was another lady on the west side of Madison that we think it was the same scheme. She lost like $1.4 million. And she was kind of the same situation where Michelle just had, she couldn't even tell detectives what went on. The person kept her on the phone and directed her to do everything. She had no idea. I think she knew she was out some money, but she had no idea how it was really perpetrated. So guess what? In the end, they didn't get their money back with interest. And the scariest thing in this case to me, again, not only that they're playing on your emotions and all this urgency and oh my gosh, they sent couriers to her house to pick up gold bars. So literally she had to go to a gold dealer. Thankfully, one of them in Dane County turned her away, said, this sounds like fraud, I'm not going to sell you this. Good for them. The second one thought so too, but wasn't as, encouraging, and did eventually sell gold to this lady. And ultimately, a courier came to her house 5-6 times to pick up these different gold deliveries. Literally, they would have her put them in boxes. She'd take pictures of them so that they could see what it was. And she was supposed to go out to the car. The car would pull up. She's not supposed to look at the driver because there'd only be a driver, and she's supposed to put it in the back window of the car and don't look at them and stay on the phone the whole time because that would probably alert the scammer, who probably wasn't even in the country, that something was going wrong. And then he'd get on the phone right away with the driver and say, do this, do this, do this. We got notified about that. She finally got a little hinked up about that and called us, and we were going to get in the middle of it. I was actually supposed to be her, so we went with her to make the next gold purchase. We didn't touch the gold, but we didn't take it into our possession at all. She took it home, packaged it up like she was supposed to. The next day I was going to go over there and be her because I'm apparently kind of her size and kind of, aging blonde hair. Yes, older. And somehow they got hinky and they never came and made the delivery. We were actually a little bit worried about that in case she had the gold at her house, so maybe they were going to come and break in. So we're like, well, that's kind of up to you. We really shouldn't take it into our custody, although I guess we probably could have, but there were discussions about that. It was okay. They just dropped her. They just got whatever. They must have known something was up. I don't know. I was wondering if somehow they'd hacked into the blink and the door cameras around the neighborhood, and they could see that there had been cops in the area recently. We have unmarked cars, but they're old unmarked police cars, so you can tell that it's an old unmarked police car. It just doesn't have Dane County on the side of it, right? But there's grill lights and there's lights here and there. So.
But also, if she at some point had allowed them access onto her computer or her phone, then they're watching her movements and they're seeing who she's calling, who she's talking to. So something like that might have.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, these are IT specialists. They're very skilled in what they're doing. And again, people are drawn to call centers either because they think they're coming for a legitimate job, or they're being threatened or pressured to do this job. We actually know of at least one call center in Myanmar that is, people might lose their life if they don't do what they're supposed to be doing. They're being threatened with violence. So they're given a script, and they learn how to, talk to you and me, and to, convince me that I need to do this thing, right? So
This rolls right into the tech support scam. A lot of these are overlapping, like some little components are romance and little components are tech scam, crypto, so a lot of them have components of each of these types of, but this is another huge one, 982 million, and that's just from the older adults. And the scammer, this is, it could be the blinking screen and or it's just, people will get, this is your, what is it, McAfee, your McAfee, Norton antivirus is due, that kind of stuff. You'll get messages, and if you call that number that you were sent, it's a scammer. So unless you've been using it for years and it's been the same, I just at this point in life, I would worry about anything I get that, especially if it's unsolicited. If you didn't ask for something to be sent to you and you're getting it, I wouldn't trust you. I wouldn't trust it. And then the other one is getting a refund. I just had a guy that he has a streaming service he doesn't have cable anymore, and it needed to be renewed. He got charged twice. So he called, and he's an older fella, retired military and retired law enforcement. He Googled the number he pays via cryptocurrency. And he called the number for the cryptocurrency platform that he used to make the payment and said, hey, I got charged twice. And they're like, oh, we'll fix it. Let us have access. Well, the number when he Googled, he took the top answer, which is sponsored, and that's on our list of things not to do later or to be wary of. When you Google something, when you're on the internet looking for Joanne fabrics, and the first one that pops up almost always is going to be sponsored. Sponsored means someone paid to have that top spot. Could it be legitimate business? Yes. Most likely it's not. So scammers are paying to get those top spots because people are going to take the first thing that pops up. Do not use the sponsored that pops up. Scroll down until you get one that's not sponsored and look at the actual address on it and make sure it looks legitimate. So anyway, he was in contact with a non-legitimate company, gave them access to his computer. They ended up taking thousands and thousands of dollars out instead of giving him that refund for the double payment. A couple other examples. I had a woman that answered a Facebook ad for an online job, work from home job, and it was very convoluted, and she kept questioning it the whole time. Oh, she was so close to telling him to forget it, but she wanted this job so bad. It was too good to be true, and she should have recognized that. But when you're hopeful because you want to pay for that dream trip, and that's what she was trying to do. She made some choices that normally she wouldn't make, and they convinced her to. She was going to have to pay for things up front, but if she bought gift cards to send to them, they could reimburse her. Well, of course, she bought gift cards, gave them the codes on them, and never got reimbursed, and she's out thousands of dollars.
So yeah, don't give your banking info out because, hey, we'd like to pay you back some extra money that you sent us. Because not only can they deposit stuff, they can also take stuff out, right? Does anyone know what's going on in there? Is that cards?
Who?
Ping
No.
pong.
No.
Ping pong.
Ping pong.
Like, should we rush in there and make sure everyone is
I know,
okay?
exactly.
A heated game of ping pong. And then online shopping scams, they've been around a long time. If you do online shopping, just, again, make sure you're purchasing from a true site. And if you're going to, it's not on this page, but if you're going to do any kind of payments online, you need to make sure that the website address has HTTPS. That S means it's secure. Never do a transaction over the internet without that S on there, or it's not secure and anybody can see that transaction happening and grab your information. But a lot of times there's going to be something, Facebook Marketplace. If you see Facebook Marketplace, there's a lot of cool stuff for sale on there, and sometimes you're going to see something that's really cool and a great price, like way too cool and way too great of a price. And then you're going to inquire about it, and they're going to say, hey, I've got tons of people asking about this. I'll save it for you, but you've got to put a down payment down on it. That's a red flag right there. So if it's too good to be true, when they're asking you for payment up front, they're gonna take your payment, and then that ad's gonna disappear, and you're gonna get the money.
All right, fake checks. We have this happen a fair amount. Michelle keeps depressing me because I like checks. For a long time I thought they were pretty safe, but not so much anymore. We pay by checks. That is like 9% of the business of what we do these days, so it is dwindling. That makes me sad. How does the scammer figure out how to do a counterfeit check? I don't know how they figured it out, but here's how they do it. They steal a check out of your mailbox. They steal a check from the industrial park. They are able to wash it so that it still looks like the check, but they're able to put in their own, pay to and how much money.
If I wash it, like using chemicals to remove the ink that says pay to Stoughton Utilities, whatever.
Right, or there's actually, you can put it into the computer and there's paint programs, whatever, different type programs that you can clear it out with and then put in what you want to put in, and then they send it to, whoever. Maybe I paid it to myself, maybe I paid it to somebody who's in on it with me, and then they gave me $300 or whatever. And then, we also have a scheme where they'll solicit homeless people and have them, give them some ID that looks enough like them that it can get by the bank, and have them go make a deposit or open an account, and then they get money out of that check that they shouldn't have had, right? And then give the homeless person $100 and buzz off, dude. The homeless person doesn't know who they are, so we have a hard time tracking those down. So a scammer sends you a counterfeit or fraudulent check to deposit. They ask you to send money back for a variety of reasons. So again, whether you bought something or they were paying for something, right? And it was supposed to be $80 and they sent you $800. Oh shoot, I just made a mistake. Can you send me back my $800? Or send me back, $500, $600. You keep $200 for your efforts or your, pain. Guess what? That's probably not a good check, and you're going to end up being on the hook with your bank for the entire amount. You might see something, an online remote job offer. The new employer sends you a check and tells you to send a portion back, or that you're supposed to be purchasing like computers or equipment to get yourself set up for your new job. Again, it's a bad check. You're going to be on the hook for that. You want a prize or sweepstakes. By the way, everyone knows that you can't win Publishers Clearinghouse without either buying a magazine or entering it. Okay? So if you never sent them a 3x5 card entering their sweepstakes, you can't win unless you buy the magazine or a magazine, okay? So it's not something that's gonna plop in your lap just because you're a fine American.
That happened to my sister, and she said, "Oh, this sounds fishy."
Yep.
She did check into it, but she did get a message that said she won.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And your hope, I get it. People are like, oh, you get excited and you're so hopeful, like maybe it's real. I can't give up this chance to be a
She
$13
said,
million
"I
winner.
checked this," and
Yeah.
And there's always fees with it, so that's what's gonna get you.
Yeah.
So the magnet thing is that anybody can order checks with any information. So another way that they do it is because you put a check in the mail. So what do we tell people is don't put anything in the mail that's got value to it. Don't put a check, don't put cash, don't put a credit card or not a credit card, but a gift card you're sending to your niece or something like that. Don't put that stuff in the mail. The post office doesn't want that either, but especially don't leave it in an unsupervised mailbox, like at the end of your long driveway, or you clipped them to the outside of your, mailbox at the apartment complex or something, and you're not keeping your eye on it for 3 hours until the mail person picks it up. Take your mail to the post office, or at least the deposit box is right outside the post office. That's our best recommendation for that. Again, the maddening thing is that anybody can order checks from these companies that I call it Checks R Us, or there's a company called Checks Unlimited. They don't have to prove who they are. They stole your bank account information, your routing number, and your account number, and told Checks Unlimited, hey, make me these checks with my name on it and your banking information, and now every check I write is coming out of your account, right? Because the bank isn't checking that stuff. Not until you see something come across that's not correct, or suddenly your bank account's zero or minus 400, then you're like, hey, what's going on? And you take a look at those checks, you're like, well, that's not me, what's going on? So just to realize that, I think once upon a time the banks were kind of more vigilant for us, but like you sign that signature card, or when we opened up an account at the bank and you had to sign a contract, they're not looking at that to compare your signature. No one's doing that anymore, ever.
But is anybody asking for ID? I guess I'm feeling
Not
more
enough.
comfortable sending a check to pay my bills. And most of them I don't. Most of them I pay online, so there's really no safe way to pay your bills.
You're right.
So there's a couple that I will send a check to, and I've been doing it for a really long time. But aren't banks required to ask for ID?
They are.
I mean, for
Yes, they
cashing
are.
a check, and if that would happen, I would hope that they would be responsible for
Yes,
refunding
they
whatever
are.
check went through.
We are seeing that sometimes, the responsible, well-known banks, some of the online banks, some of them that don't actually exist in bricks and mortar anywhere. Yeah, we got problems with that. There's a know your customer requirement on behalf of any financial institution, and we are catching them all the time. They're not doing it. Like, I'll get an application back from a fraudster that made an application with your information perhaps, and there'll be a spot here for know your customer information. It's blank. There's nothing. And to tell you the truth, I think the only way to actually do that, if I'm not in person going in to open an account, is that I'm on like like a Skype, like it's a live video between me and the bank, and I'm showing you my ID that actually matches my face, right? That's the only way to do it. Otherwise, I mean, I can email you or fax you my ID picture, but you don't know that's me.
Right.
I mean, I might have stolen her ID.
I mean, if I go down to the bank to take money out or whatever, then they want to see my ID.
Yes.
So I'm hoping if somebody comes in and cashes a check for me, they should be
Yes.
looking at some kind of
Yep.
ID.
Yeah. To tell you the truth, our local banks are really very good.
Yeah.
Actually, I got stopped one time, I can't remember if it was Dane County Credit Union or Heartland. They wanted my ID to deposit money, and I'm like, no, why do you care whose account I put money into? I thought that was taking it too far. But honestly, we've had very good luck working with the local banks. Once in a while, they'll get caught out on something, but they're also really good about refunding you the money if they made a mistake on something like that. So,
We are at time, but we've got so
Oh.
much more to talk about. We understand if people need to skedaddle, but we're gonna keep talking, and I'm gonna hand out my handouts while Gwen continues.
oh, there you go. We're gonna talk about this.
Just real quick, I thought this was an interesting graph. The romance scam or the affinity scams, it's the different methods, the different schemes that they're using. And my oil rig one is on there. It's used over and over and over. And a lot of these other ones, we've seen it. And then SIM swap or SIM porting. Anybody familiar with this? It's a big deal. I've had 3 cases in Dane County.
Hang on. Anybody who's taking notes should write this down, because this is something you should do as soon as you leave here
This is an
today.
important one. So, cell phones, this is, as long as you've got a cell phone, this is possible, that this is gonna impact you. Phones used to have a physical SIM card, the brains of your phone, a little chip, that if you wanted to get a new phone, they had to take that card out of your old phone and put it in your new phone. No longer have that. Now it's an eSIM or an electronic. So the brain can just be transferred from one phone to another without a physical card. So the way this happens is a scammer gets, you've heard of data breaches, right? There's been so many data breaches. So your information is probably on the dark web.
I know mine is.
Yes, it's going to be there. If it's not there now, it's going to be. So we've got a whole, Gwen will pass out or maybe she did already, a whole bunch of safety things, and one of them is locking your credit, checking your credit, making sure there's nothing that you don't recognize on there, because again, your information's out there. So with the SIM swap, they've got enough information about you, and it could be also from things you share on social media. This is another one where they glean a lot of information about you. They have enough to convince a phone company, they have your phone number and your name, they convince a phone company, hey AT&T, I'm going to port my phone from you, and I'm going to go to Verizon. And so AT&T goes, okay, and sends it to the Verizon number, because they've given them enough of the information about you. You're out shopping, and you try to go make a payment, and they're like, nope, your card's no good. What the heck? This is how my first case that I got, her card's no good. She's like, I have plenty of money in there. And she goes to make a phone call to check her bank. Her phone's not working. What is going on? Someone had ported her number. When you port that brain, the SIM card of your phone, if you do online banking, if you've got passwords, if you have your email on there, they now have access to everything. They took your phone from you basically without physically taking your phone. So they were able to get on her online banking apps, and they drained her accounts.
Changed her passwords.
Changed her passwords, so she could not even access anything, and it took a heck of a lot of time for her to convince her banks that she hadn't done this and to lock things down. It was awful. So the phone companies, because it's happening a lot, the phone companies have now introduced fixes for this where you have to take an extra step that you're not going to keep on your phone. So whoever your carrier is, your subscriber, call them, contact them, go in there, what have you, and ask if you can get your phone set up so that you are protected from porting or swapping the SIM. So SIM swapping or porting, you want the extra protection so that somebody can't do that without knowing whatever you set up. My husband, we have Verizon, and my husband said for us, there's an app. He went in there and was able to do a toggle switch. How that protects us, I'm not really sure, but that's apparently how it is with Verizon. So some of them are really easy, but if you're not comfortable with it, just go in there and have them help you do it. Definitely do it.
This is devastating when this happens to people. I mean, sometimes their first warning is that their phone isn't working. But you should jump on that immediately. Go back on the slide. Jump on that immediately, like we talked about yesterday. Me and my husband, or whatever, me and Michelle, my phone's not working, and I'll be like, here, you contact my provider. I'm gonna get on the line with my credit card, my bank, my retirement account, my whatever, everything that I know that I would sign into on my phone, and then you've got the sign-in spots on those different websites, and it auto-populates your information. The bad guys got that, right? So I'm gonna jump on and try to get a hold of all these, agencies and tell them, lock me down, don't let any transfers happen until I can get this figured out. And she's on the phone helping me trying to get things figured out with Verizon or whoever my company is.
Luckily, there was
another
case that I had where it happened to a man. His phone wasn't working. His son is IT, and so he used they happen to have a landline, used the landline and called his son and said, I don't know what's going on. His son knew about this and said, oh my gosh, I bet this happened. Contacted the phone provider and they said, yep, his phone number was ported. So we're able to jump right on it within minutes. Well, when the husband was able to go back into his email and check it, you know how you can tell if your email's been read or not? Well, he knew he had gotten a new email for his wife's retirement account and hadn't opened it yet. It showed that it had been read. So he's like, uh-oh, called the whatever retirement company and said, hey, this happened to me, want to make sure there's nothing funky going on with my account. They're like, they're in the process of adding a new account to your wife's retirement account right now, and she had over $1 million in there. They were that close to getting her retirement account. Very close. Okay.
All right, what should you do to keep yourself safe? Again, our number one takeaway from this is pause and reflect. Hang up, think about this, let your better judgment prevail. Knowing these red flags that we've been talking about can help you protect yourself. Okay, don't let somebody, urgent you into thinking, I have to take action right now, okay? If your grandson is in jail in Mexico, that's a definite hang up, and call his mom. Be like, hello daughter, did you know that, Jeffrey's in Mexico in jail? No, he's not, he's in Whitewater at school right now, he's fine. So do not fall for that stuff. And we're still hearing that sometimes, but again, it's getting more realistic with the AI. It sounds like his voice, right? They're going to be able to do that. All right, understand the psychology of it. Criminals are getting way more skilled. They know how to manipulate your emotions. You can beat the scammers at their own game by understanding the mind tricks they use. They hate it when you hang up. They know that they might be losing you as the sale, right? And don't even be polite about it. Be like, no, I'm not talking to you anymore, click. Just be like, he's droning on and on, click. You know what I'm saying? Don't be polite. Limit your details. Oversharing on social media can make you a target, and it also means that they know a lot about you. Not only are you out there, but they know a lot about you because they're able to look at all of your social media sometimes. Here's the thing that we're talking about too with people. You should assume that your information is out there. There have been enough big data breaches everywhere. I personally have been notified by Target that they had a data breach, and I don't even have a Target account. I think it's just because I use my credit card there. Well, I do sometimes. I got a call or a letter last summer from, I said yesterday it was United Healthcare. I don't know if that's actually what it was because that's the big company, but it was some health thing that I had never heard of before. I'm like, I don't do business with them. I don't know what you're talking about. And I kind of set it down, and for a couple, I'm like, is that a fraud? Is it a fraudulent letter I got from this company? I mean, it wasn't asking for anything from me, but I was like, that's weird. And a couple weeks later, I realized that it's something that Dean Healthcare,
Yeah, 'cause
like,
Dean got
put,
breached.
yes,
Yeah.
they put their stuff through it. And so that company got breached, and now my information's out from a company that I didn't even know I was doing business with.
I had
So
4
you should
last year.
assume,
I had 4 last year and 2 this year.
Oh, yeah.
where I got
It's
letters. I get 'em
ridiculous.
every other month.
so you should just assume that
So
your
it's not
data is
even
out there.
anything you do sometimes, it's
No.
not everybody else's.
Not at all. And
Exactly.
you can be as safe as you possibly can, and your information's out there. So again, that's some of what we're talking about here too, is like, yep, your information is out there. You've done what you could to protect it, and it still didn't help because the companies are not being, as rigorous about it as they should be. And here's another maddening little detail. They are not required by the government at all to notify you about that.
About a data breach.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is maddening. Okay, contact the business. Imposter scams capitalize on your trust. Watch for red flags. Again, once upon a time, we could look for misspellings and poor grammar, blah, blah, blah. Contact the business reporting to have called you. Again, hang up, look up the phone number yourself, look on the back of your credit card, look on one of your bank statements. When the person tells you that your information is being used to buy weapons and you're actually helping to transport stuff to Iran or wherever, be like, and hey, we want to transfer you to your bank so they can talk to you about it, what's going on in your bank account. That's not, I mean, they did transfer you to someone, but they didn't transfer you to Heartland Credit Union or whoever, okay? It's also somebody that's in on it. Hang up, look up the phone number yourself, and call them yourself, okay? All right, what else? Create strong passwords, use multiple passwords. You've probably heard that. Don't use the same password for every site that you're on. Make sure you have a password on your router. For everybody have a router, know what a router is? Okay. The newer routers have multiple channels on them. You may have thought like, oh, here, I got to put a password on my router so that the random person driving by can't hook into your router and use your internet, right? However, they've got more channels on them and you need to lock down all of those channels. I think you can use the same password on each one. That's not a huge deal on that router, but just look into it. People didn't realize when they were buying a new one in the last, 5 years or something like that, that there's multiple routers or multiple channels on the router. Make sure they all have a password. If you receive an urgent message mentioning a hack, hang up, close out the screen, turn off your computer. Sometimes that alone is enough to just make it go away kind of thing. But if it's like the next time you turn it back on and it's still there, take your computer to someplace that you trust to make sure the malware is off of it. Yep. Don't allow remote access to your phone or computer. I was just working with a partner. We went down to Milwaukee to talk to a guy who was actually a corrections employee in the Milwaukee jail. And he got scammed in a teeny little way. They got him to let them on his computer. They were only on for, 20 seconds, he claims, 30 seconds, whatever, but it was enough to hook in and they were able to use his computer for some things. And very quickly, he's like, this can't be right, and unplugged, or, shut off his phone and unplugged the computer, and they were still able to get in and use his computer. And actually, it was his internet service to initiate some fraudulent transactions. So they didn't actually even take money from him, they just used his IP address. So when we went, doing our investigation, it led us to a dead end, and we had to keep looking because he didn't actually do it. So consider how you pay. If we haven't talked about this very much, we're not going to talk a lot, but money transfer platforms can be a very quick way to send money to someone you know. Has anybody had like a grandchild or somebody say, hey, why don't you Venmo me some money, or Zelle or Cash App? Okay. They work somewhat. They were intended only for us low-level people to use them. Low-level, I just mean us common folk. They're not meant for businesses to use, okay? There aren't protections in place on these like there would be on credit cards or checking accounts and that sort of thing. So they're really just meant for hey, we bought pizza together and here's my $8, right? Just be aware that if you put in the wrong information about who you're sending the money to, you don't necessarily get that money back unless, like I sent something to Michelle, I meant to send it to my other friend Michelle, but I did Michelle123 instead of Michelle122. Thankfully, Michelle123 was nice enough to send me back the money because she was the wrong Michelle. Okay, so just make sure you got that correct. Maybe if you're doing something with your grandchild, you hand them your phone and they put it in correctly, whatever, just be aware of that little glitch with those payment platforms. Credit cards versus checks, debit cards. credit cards have significant protections built into them. I'm not a huge fan, and mostly just because I find it kind of highway robbery that they're taking 3 or 4% out of the cut of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're stuck in a hard place right now that checks aren't safe enough, and credit cards are screwing us, right? Or screwing the businesses that we're
And
dealing
people
with.
don't want to take credit cards anymore. The places you go for like breakfast or whatever,
Right.
they charge you
Or they're
more
gonna-
now to
Yeah.
make up the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's just like.
Yeah, well, then you get someplace and they don't want your cash. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
okay, what am I gonna do? Okay. All right. If your computer was hacked, access was allowed, take your device to a reliable computer company. And also, again, don't allow somebody to install a remote program on it unless you're absolutely sure of who that is. Like, I'm gonna tell people, don't do it unless your child or your, best friend who's an IT person comes over and says, well, hey, let me back up with that. Why would you even do that at all? Let's say we are getting to the point where, well, I started making a few mistakes in my checking account. Can you help me manage this a little bit? I'd be fine if you can be my trusted person who takes a look at my accounts with me. And then you agree that this person, like your child or somebody that you've trusted for years and years, they put a remote program on it to be able to look at it from afar. Do not let somebody do it that you just met yesterday on a phone call or a text, right? Or potentially, yeah, I can't think of a reason why you would take it somewhere and do it. So yes, we're very skeptical about the remoting in programs where somebody else can just get into your stuff because they're 98% of the time used for bad stuff. It's going to take something from you that they shouldn't have. All right, lock down your credit report with TransUnion, Experian, Equifax. Everybody knows about that, right? It's free to do. Lock your credit reports. And that means that if I got all of your identity information and tried to open a new credit account, a credit, card, a bank account, something like that, that hits your credit score or your credit report, and it gets denied because your credit is locked. Does that make sense?
Yep, and you have to do it once a year or so. I did it. I just did it this last year after.
And you had to redo it?
You shouldn't have to redo it.
My credit, well, I went on and I looked up how to do it and stuff because the credit card companies one notified me that.
Yep.
And, because they automatically do my, what do you call them?
Like credit monitoring?
Yeah.
Yep, I have that too.
So, they told me the things that I could do and one was on there. So when I went into the various companies,
Yep.
that do it, one of them is, I have it on my phone to pop up in my calendar that I have to renew it in a year.
Interesting.
Oh.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's new.
Yeah,
I
because
think
typically,
it was
it's, once you set it, you can turn it off, you can temporarily, like, so you do want a loan, you wanna go get a new car and you need a loan, that's fine, you can turn it off while
Unlock
they
it.
do their thing, and then you can turn it back on, but
Yep.
it should just stay on unless you take it
And I know
off.
there was two different things from all three weren't identical how you did it.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yep,
one
that's
was-
true.
One was here
Yeah.
and then.
Because
the
mine's
other
been locked for
one was-
years and I don't touch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't need to unless you're going to apply for a new account. So if you never do that in 14 years, then don't unlock it. And it's all simple and it's free. They can't charge you for it anymore. They used to be able to and they can't, mostly after COVID.
COVID,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, yes ma'am.
Is it, debit cards, are they safer? I've heard people say we should use credit cards instead of debit cards.
Debit cards, as a rule, or for the majority of them, they don't have the protections on them that a credit card would have. So if there's fraud, like, one time I'm working, and you would think our system should be pretty safe. Actually, I was working at another police department, and you'd think our system should be pretty safe. I went on to Galls, which is a law enforcement equipment manufacturer, whatever, and I was buying, I don't know, a new duty belt or something like that. And my credit card got hacked, and within 6 hours, I'm getting told that I'm making purchases in Indianapolis, and I'm clearly not in Indianapolis. The credit card will, they'll do a little investigation that they'd be like, yeah, I see that you were on your, using your card earlier in the day here, so you couldn't possibly be in Indianapolis, and they'll credit me the money back. That may not happen with a debit card. As a matter of fact, it's more unlikely. So for the most part, debit cards don't have those protections. Credit cards do.
Okay.
So yes.
So we should be using credit cards instead of
Well,
debit.
that's your choice,
And then
but
just pay it off.
that's out there.
And then just make sure you pay it off. Yeah.
All right. And lastly, we would tell you, please report it. So digital tools have brought a lot of convenience. They've also opened a lot of doors for scammers. Report it first off to your financial institutions or your credit card, that sort of thing. If something is in peril, like you can see that somebody's trying to use that stuff right now, again, hang up, whatever, disconnect with whatever's going on over here, find a phone number you trust because it's in writing somewhere, call your institution and say, I can see something's going on in my account, can you lock it down right now? And everybody, again, all of our local banks are really good about being helpful to help you with that. Please call us. If you're gonna get an investigation, it's probably gonna be us. But I'm also gonna say, also share your story with friends and family and anybody that'll listen. Sharing might help make sure they're not a victim also. We're also gonna ask you, and it's on this sheet, to contact the Federal Trade Commission or IC3 and make your report of what's happened to you there also. So for the most part, information that goes there is really just conglomerated for the federal government, which, okay, I know I work for the government, but I'm skeptical about sometimes what the federal government's up to. But this helps us because it channels data and statistics to like Congress, who puts money out to say, hey, as a national problem, we want to focus on this. So this money goes to different places, but partly the FTC because they're one of the agencies that monitors and helps to respond to this sort of stuff. And also that's who you're reporting to. But also if stuff gets big enough, if like dollar amounts get big enough, or if they realize that there's like a bunch of different cases that have some similarities that like they can tell, hey, it's all coming out of Liberia in a specific little area, they will assign FBI agents to the cases when the dollar amounts get big enough. So it is helpful for that reason. In general, if you're sending your information to the FTC, it's probably not being investigated there. And I can tell you that frequently you may need a police report number, like a case number for somebody that you're reporting to. And that is basically to say, well, you just told a police officer that you got scammed or lost money, you must be telling the truth. Some like your insurance company sometimes needs a police report number. Because some, people will try to scam them, right? Or I'll tell my bank I didn't write that check and I actually did. They're thinking that if I'm willing to tell the police, because there is something on the line if you do that, right? Like I can arrest somebody for lying to me in those filing a false police report. So mostly people don't do that to us, mostly. So if you need a case number, contact us. If you think it's going to get investigated on this smaller scale, contact us. We might not get very far with it, and we'll certainly give you some, resources and some ideas about what to do to protect yourself or what are your next steps with it. But please also report to the FTC or the IC3 on there. It's just kind of the same thing.
A few more things. We talked earlier about don't click on things, don't answer things, don't respond to things that are unsolicited. Lately, there's been a lot of text messages that will pop up on people's phones that are very generic or intentionally make you go, huh? Like, hey Jenny, I'm not going to be able to make it. And then you respond going, oh, this isn't Jenny, you must have the wrong number. They're like, oh, thanks for letting me know, how nice of you. You're very kind. I appreciate you, I hope you have a great day. And then you respond back going, I hope you have a great day. What are you going to do today? A conversation has started. They're fishing. They're trying to, A, they found a real human. B, they found one that will engage with them, and they're going to try. So that there's a ton of those very generic, weird text messages going around. There's also the text messages and emails saying, you owe for the Wisconsin toll, or the whatever tolls. We don't have tolls in
I've had
Wisconsin.
that 6 times in the last
Yeah.
year and a half.
It's all scam. So they're trying all different methods. Just be leery. Think about anything that comes to you that you weren't expecting. Take your time, look at it, go, should I click on this? Probably not. Phone numbers, we use the term spoofed. They can make it look like it's coming from the Dane County Sheriff's Office. They can make it look like it's a local Stoughton number. Those kind of things. They can take any phone number and make it look like it's something else. They can even assign a name with it. So it looks like a Stoughton number and says, some name that sounds like a local name too. So
Like the plug, a local plug, no.
yeah, absolutely.
Michelle, tell your Connexus story. It's short.
Yeah, we have, so we're trying to make all these connections with our local financial
Thanks.
institutions.
That's why we created this flyer.
That form, yeah.
This
we
is for
created this
banks.
form because they're our first line of defense. If somebody gets drawn in by a scammer and they get told to go to their bank and lie to their banker about why they're taking this money out, we're counting on the tellers to recognize this and try to put a stop to it. So we created this tool to help them to kind of put in front of somebody, because often they're on the phone with a scammer, make them go, oh my gosh, this is exactly what's happening to me, and maybe stop. Well, to Nexus Credit Union, we had a victim, so that's how I made this connection with them, gave them this flyer, have a great relationship. I get a call one day. The bank manager calls me. A woman had come in, a recently widowed woman had come in. The phone was in her purse. They didn't know it at that time. Later on, she admitted she was still on the phone with the scammer. And same thing, asking for money. Very unusual of her to come in and ask for large amounts of money. And she was telling them whatever story, I'm gonna buy a new car, what have you. She won't listen to the teller. Bank manager overhears what's going on, comes over and says, hey, recognizes this the great thing about banking local, recognizes this customer, what are you doing? And she clearly doesn't see herself and is taking out a large sum of cash. Tries to convince her she's being scammed, won't listen to her. She goes, I'm gonna call a detective. She calls me, Michelle, are you working? I am. Can you come over here? I think I've got someone getting scammed. I'm on my way. By the time I got there, they had already convinced her. She was now listening to them. She was almost out a ton of money. Stopped, they were changing her accounts and everything. They got her to hang up the phone. While I get there and I'm joining in on gathering information, the phone rings. Her phone rings. I'm like, well, let me answer that. Because she looks at it and goes, it's them. And I answer and I'm like, this is no longer her number. Don't call this again. This is law enforcement. And they get angry. They're yelling at me.
Well, hang on, Michelle.
What's
You
that?
said, this is Detective Michelle
And
Viney.
then they say, I want your badge, your name and your badge number. I'm like, you got it. So I give them all of my information.
From the Dane County Sheriff's Office.
Yes. And I warned her, they're relentless. They were this close to getting your money. They're not going to stop. They almost had it. They're going to keep trying. Don't answer calls. Don't click on stuff. Don't respond. Next day, I get a call from this victim. She was getting call after call after call from the same number. She doesn't recognize the number, and she'd already taken her computer to Geek Squad to have it wiped, so she doesn't have her computer to look something up, and has not a real savvy on her phone. So she calls her banker and says, are you trying to call me? No. What's the number? I'll look it up for you. Oh, spoof number. That's the Dane County Sheriff's Office number. It must be Michelle trying to get a hold of you. She has my business card, calls my number. Michelle, are you trying to get a hold of me? Nope, it was the scammer. Spoofed the Dane County Sheriff's Office number because I had told them what agency I work with. Had she answered, I'm sure that they would have said, this is Lieutenant Hayes, and Michelle is low level, she doesn't know what she's talking about. You need to listen to me, go get that money, and try to step right back in. So just.
This is how persistent they are.
Oh my
And
word.
in our face. Can you imagine that? Now he's gonna pretend like he's a sheriff's office employee.
Employee of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So has there been fewer incidents with gift cards, because that, people are so aware of that, but
No.
I know down, especially here at
No.
Walmart in town, still people go down there to buy multiple gift cards.
A lot of the different businesses are trying very
Because who pays
hard.
anything with a gift card? That, to me, that's just not even a red flag, that's just a duh. You don't pay people with gift cards.
I know, but they get them so flustered and say, you know what, you don't need to go to your bank and buy this. This will be an easy way to get the money. They're gonna give convincing reasons why this is simple. People won't ask you questions. They don't need to be involved in this. This way we'll get your money and we'll put it safely in this. We'll keep them on these cards. So they've got ways to make them feel like this is a safe way to transact. They're good.
It is still happening. I think it is actually dropping off a little bit
It is,
because
but-
people are getting wise to it. We aren't seeing as many cases of that, but it is still out there a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I was working at Walmart, there's a certain amount of money you could put on gift cards. And then if they want more, we had to send them to the desk. And I know one time, I could overhear the customer talking, the desk person was really
Trying to convince them.
not to do it, why? Who's after you for these? I mean, why are you doing this?
Good for them.
Personal and
Yeah.
really being very stern about.
So what, if you're asking for a higher amount, why wouldn't you just get a second card or second and third card?
You can do that too, but most time you just send them to the desk and let them.
Because it's just too much. for
Well, you
some
wonder if the
reason.
scammer knows that there's a limit or.
Maybe. I've had victims that have said banks have tried to stop them, but also that they've gone into, it was Walmart, and there was a teller or somebody that was just giving her such a hard time, and she was so frustrated because she's got this urgent, thing to take care of, and here's this person slowing them down. They're like, just give me my card. And there's some other man that was in line and said, stop harassing her and give her her cards. And so she's telling me this afterwards, going, the person at Walmart was right. I should have listened to them, and this guy thinks that I'm getting harassed by Walmart is trying to help me. It's horrible.
Well, this
It's
is
awful.
good about talking to senior citizens that come in to do that, and I've heard that from other people. They really try to coach them not
Good.
to do it, but
Yeah.
ultimately they can't stop.
They can't, exactly.
Right,
It's their money.
right. And it's the
They're
same
gonna
thing
do
with the
it.
bank.
Yeah.
It's their money, they want to help you keep it safe, but ultimately, if you're demanding your money, they really can't keep it from you,
Yeah.
even if they think you're lying to them.
So we've talked about a lot of the stuff, the sponsored, bless you, the S for the secure website. And just because it doesn't have the S on it, doesn't mean that it's a fraudulent site. It just don't do financial transactions without that S. Don't give remote access. I think we've hammered that one home. Cryptocurrency, anybody in here, did I already ask this, do cryptocurrency? Have you seen a cryptocurrency ATM?
No.
Bet you have.
They're at
Not that I
Walmart.
know.
They're at Walmart, they're at Walgreens, they're at Target, they're at Quick Trip, they're at BP's, they're at the liquor store. It's an ATM. It's an ATM. But these, you can feed the money in and it gets converted to Bitcoin. So they're a little bit different. Sometimes they have multiple machines. Oftentimes it's just one machine. It acts as giving you money and taking your money. So you really wouldn't know. But if you're using it as a Bitcoin machine, a cryptocurrency ATM, a digital asset machine, there's now warnings that have to be placed. It's going to kick in July 1st, where they're going to have maximum amounts that you can put in there too. So the state is luckily, it's not federal yet, but at least Wisconsin is saying enough is enough, and they're putting these precautionary things in place for these machines so that, we've had people lose tens of thousands of dollars, like she said,
2 hours.
Hours of feeding $100 bills and sometimes the machines get full because so many people have been scammed and it hasn't been emptied yet. They get full and then so they get sent to another machine. It's heartbreaking. To talk about the Iowa study where they...
We just found this information like 2 weeks ago. Iowa just did a study. Their Attorney General's office was suspicious about this in particular, and they all have crypto machines in all of their, because Quick Trip is in Iowa as a Quick Star. So go into Quick Trip and notice there's usually 2 machines, and one of them will be an ATM and a regular ATM, and one will be a crypto. You can do regular ATM transactions on the crypto machine, or you can do crypto. So it's 2 different things. I'm not sure that I even trust it to do a regular, withdrawal, because they can still get your information. Anyway, so this information just came out from Iowa. The Attorney General did a subpoena, got this information from the 2 companies, the bigger companies that were putting out those ATM or those crypto ATM machines, and got the information on everybody who had taken or fed money in and made a crypto purchase in 3 years or something. It was the 2020s over a 3-year period or something like that. So then they got a hold of every one of you and said, why did you make a crypto purchase in 2022? And you said it was a scam, and you said it was a scam, and you said it was a scam, and you said I was scammed, and you said I was scammed. Everyone, 94 to 98% of the people in Iowa who use those crypto machines were scammed. That's the only reason they went to those machines.
They're useless machines. They need to get out of.
Yes.
They need to be gone.
Yes.
Anybody who's doing a legitimate cryptocurrency investment is not going to use these machines. The fees are outrageous.
They're huge.
So then why do these stations allow the machines?
Exactly. They don't
Because
know.
they're making a
They
small
get
amount
cut.
on them.
They get a cut just like any regular
Yeah,
ATM. So
of
they've
course.
been
They're
convinced.
part of the scam.
They're
No,
not.
they're
And
legitimate businesses.
honestly, I really like Quick Trip. They're a really
I
good
love
business.
Quick Trip, but we don't do that. I'm just talking about Quick Start. Like if they're doing that.
Oh, it's the same. Quick Start
They
is
just
Quick
don't
Trip.
understand.
It's
No,
just
I
a
know
different
they
name.
are, but it's a different location, so that's not
Right.
happening in Stoughton per se, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure it
Yes,
is
it
too.
is.
The
It
most
is.
of the crypto ATM transactions
It
are
is.
fraud.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that, and it's not a lot that they're getting as, rent to sit in the corner. So we're hoping that one day Quick Trip figures this out. Because we have been kind of trying to communicate with them and just be like, you're a fine upstanding business. You don't need this little bit of income that comes from these machines.
Right.
And everyone who's on them, 94 to 98% of the people that are on them are being scammed. If you're going to invest in crypto, go talk to a professional.
I'm just saying if it's 98%, that's that's almost
huge.
100%.
That's, there's usually no reason.
So I'm just saying that's not out there, because I've never heard of those machines until today. I mean,
Yes.
I know a little,
I bet
very
yes.
little bit about crypto, but not much.
Right.
Go and look at it,
Right.
yeah.
But that's why
I'm
we're
saying
here.
If it's 98% causing fraud, isn't that something legally
I
that
bet-
needs to be changed?
I'd be
Yeah,
surprised.
well, that's why they did
seriously.
it. That's why they did it. And so I'm thinking that Iowa laws will change, maybe, and this is gonna be a big ripple in the Midwest. So I'm
Yes.
thinking Wisconsin might be looking at this closely next because of that. So thank you, Iowa.
And honestly, I bet it's 100%. I bet it's 100%, but that they either couldn't get a hold of some, they couldn't
Yeah.
narrow down who they were, or they were still too ashamed. A lot of people don't report because they're like, I'm not gonna admit a thing. So they're like, or am I gonna get in trouble? Did I do something wrong? And they say, nope, I did an investment. I would be shocked if anybody legitimately used that, because you can, anybody who's doing crypto is probably tech savvy, and you do it online, and you just buy it. So they're not gonna go to this machine and pay huge fees, so.
Let's always go to the bank.
So, again, we're here to educate, trying to make it so that our scammers don't get to you guys. We're arming you with the knowledge so you can trust your hunch. We want you to tell others, everybody, please share this information. Because more than likely, there's someone you know that's been scammed, but they're not talking about it because they're not gonna go, hey, guess what? I just gave away my life savings. Wanna hear about it? They're too embarrassed.
Yeah.
So, it's happening. We've done a lot of media, we've been interviewed, we did TV, we're trying to get out there, talking to anybody who will listen to us, because it's so important to
You know,
empower
I'm
everybody with
I'm
this.
sorry to interrupt, but down here at the bottom of the bag list here, it says scammers are using scare tactics and pressure to get your money. Years ago, and I don't know that this was a scam, but many years ago, I used to get through the mail envelopes from Wisconsin State Highway Troopers or whatever, and you'd donate money or whatever. And then a few years ago, I got a phone call, and I had not gotten anything through the mail from them for years and years and years and years, but I used to donate $10 or whatever, and I get a receipt in the mail saying thank you, blah, blah, blah. And I got a phone call, and they said they were from there, and and they wanted to know if I wanted to make a contribution. I said, no, not at this time. And this guy was like yelling at me, and I couldn't believe it. And so I don't know that it was a state trooper, and I know that maybe organizations get big and then they have call centers call. It could be that.
Yes.
Or it could have been a scam too, where, because he
So-
called me.
So those have been legitimate, especially in the past and with the mailings and stuff. We also heard at one point that stuff got farmed out to a prison, so the call center was in the
That's what I'm
prison.
saying, I didn't know if it was a scam, because he was being
Yeah.
very rude. He's going,
So-
well, why not? How come you're not doing it? And I was just
Like our union has looked at that and said, you know, we just need to be done with this because it just doesn't have a good reputation. Everybody thinks it's a
I
scam.
used to donate to them years ago
Yeah,
when I was
yeah,
moving in.
we're
But
different.
not
Society's
over the
different,
phone.
right? You can't
Yeah.
trust anything,
No,
so
I know.
who's gonna, it's not worth their time or effort.
Right,
And
right,
yes, you're
I don't
right.
either.
And we certainly don't want the reputation of some inmate yelling at you because you decided not to donate this year. That's just crap.
And we
So-
don't really want an inmate taking your financial records.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the form, like we talked about, that we created, hoping, there's that little empty spot down at the bottom on the other side of the sheriff's office envelope, offering for different financial institutions to put their logo there too, so that it's showing that we're partnering with them. But feel free to bring this into your bank and say, oh, I don't see that you have this in here. The sheriff's office has this available to you if you'd like to
So
use it.
Michelle wanted to create this, and she's the main driving force. I helped her a little bit, but to say, like, how could we have helped you, or help the bank people to deal with this, and help the bank people to deal with somebody who's being scammed? What could, and she actually talked to some victims, and is like, what could we have done to help convince you that what you were being told or what you're experiencing wasn't real? And this is what we came up with. That they said if we could see something that would say, look, this has happened to other people and it's likely happening to you too. So our intention with this is that it's sitting right behind maybe it's posted in front of the, we shouldn't call them tellers, I think that's supposed to be
I think there's some
insulting them.
colors.
Nice.
Personal reps. So it's either posted out there or they've got it behind their space. And if they have this suspicion, they're gonna shove it across like, this might be what's happening to you. Do you think that's possible? Because these are different little bubbles of things that have happened. So, and just to get somebody to think and like, I'm gonna stop talking at you, but here, will you think about that? Because I'm worried that your money is being taken from you. So that's our intent with
And
this
it's
one.
it's a big step. Years ago, banks would not even consider doing this. Like, it's your money and you ask for it, we're giving it to you, we're not gonna ask questions because we don't wanna tick
It's a
off our
personal thing,
customers.
yeah.
But now it's happening so often that everybody realizes that they have to, and they are. They're stepping up and they're taking a stance to question and offer help. A few of these resources here, we've got them on the forms that got handed off and handed out to you guys, and we'll end it with this little.
Anybody need a hug after we have handle this bad information for you?
Depressed now?
Yes.
No, I was that way. I already figured out that there's just no hope.
True.
We do get asked, are you depressed when you are doing your job and knowing that, and we're like, no, because we're hoping to educate and make a difference in helping stop it from being so prevalent. Maybe in our area, whatever, Dane County, stay away from Dane County.
What's so hard is our group, and I know I'm on the very, very lowest end of the baby boomers, but this is the group that is starting to get proud of themselves because they can buy a cell phone and use it and use the camera, and they can log into their computer, and finally feeling like they can do some things, and then to find out all the damage that can be done to is just
Yep.
way over.
Yeah, but less so now because you've heard some of these stories.
Right, technology can be amazing, but it's scary.
I have just a cute story.
Uh-oh.
This just adds some humor. My husband spent 30 years on Stoughton Police Department.
Oh, who's that?
Tom Home.
Oh, that's familiar. I worked down here for a while.
Ah, okay. And he's passed away now. But back in the day when computers were first starting to come in and cell phones were first starting to come in, he wouldn't have anything in the house like that because he said the only safe computer is the one at the police department.
Or the one that's unplugged, huh? Well, and again, even at the police department. And so honestly, what we think happened is that maybe I clicked on the sponsored link, but it was a spoofed website. So it looked like the same address to me, but it wasn't what I clicked on. And so my money or my credit card information got waylaid somewhere that wasn't actually the trusted Galls that's been around for 40 years and is still around. So whatever, it can happen.
I remember the business I worked for before I got into law enforcement, and the internet was brand new, and we all got email addresses, and we had this big meeting teaching us about stuff, and part of it was the threat of clicking on stuff that you don't want to click on. And so we finished this, and then we were all tasked with, start doing a search, try get it familiar. Very first thing I clicked on, porn.
At work. Right. When we first got the computers in the jail, they encouraged us to play solitaire so we would not be afraid of them. So that didn't take very long before they're like, okay, that's enough of that. Let's do work stuff.